Let me tell you about a night I've never told anyone. 2 in the morning. The room is completely dark. I woke up needing to use the bathroom. The bathroom was 8 steps from my bed. 8 steps, a distance I had crossed thousands of times in my life, starting when I was a little girl running barefoot on the Georgia clay. That night I lay in the dark and could not swing my legs off the side of the bed. Not from pain, but because they were so heavy, I could no longer tell they belonged to me. From ankle to knee, the skin was stretched tight and shiny, filled with fluid that had nowhere to go. The weight of it pinned me to the mattress like something had been poured into my veins and left to harden overnight. I lay there staring at the ceiling, 8 steps away, and I listened to my daughter Grace breathing in the room next door. I didn't call out to her, not because I didn't need help, but because I could not bear the thought of her walking in sleepy-eyed, worried, and having to lift her mother's legs off the side of the bed. These legs that had carried her up the stairs when she was small. These legs that had danced in the kitchen. These legs that had stood through the longest mornings of both our lives. I lay there until 4 in the morning. 2 hours. That was the night before my 79th birthday. Today I am 101 years old. And this morning, before I sat down here to talk with you, I stood up from this chair without using my hands, walked out to my front garden, and watered the flowers I planted myself. My name is Florence Albright. And the story of what happened between that 2 in the morning darkness and this morning's garden, that's what I'm here to tell you. I'm going to show you 5 specific movements that pulled me out of a nursing home and gave me my life back. All of them can be done from a chair or from your kitchen counter. No equipment, no money. But there is something I'll tell you at the end of this video, something no health video on the internet is willing to say plainly, that accounts for 70% of why I'm still standing at 101. And if you skip it, then no matter how faithfully you do all 5 exercises, you'll only ever get half the result you deserve. Stay with me. 3 weeks after that 2 in the morning night, Grace found me sitting on the kitchen floor. I hadn't fallen. I hadn't slipped. I had simply reached up for the tea kettle on the shelf above the stove, and my knees, without warning, without negotiation, refused to hold me anymore. I slid down against the cabinet below the sink, slowly, the way a candle melts, and sat there on the cold linoleum looking up at the ceiling, unable to find a way back to standing. I sat there for nearly an hour. When Grace opened the door, I watched her face change in less than a second. From ordinary to frightened to something else, something I had never wanted to see in my daughter's eyes and have never been able to forget. Not just worry, the look of someone who has just confirmed something they had been privately dreading for a long time. The look that said, "Here it is. This is it." She didn't speak right away. She just came across the kitchen, knelt down beside me, put her hand on my shoulder, and said quietly, "Mama, are you all right?" And I, the woman who had brought her into the world, who had held her when she was newborn, who had stood firm through the darkest mornings of both our lives, I couldn't answer. Because if I opened my mouth, I would start crying. And if I started crying, I wouldn't have the strength to stop Grace from doing what I already knew she was thinking. 3 weeks after that, I signed the nursing home admission papers. I watched my hand holding the pen. It was shaking. Not from weakness, but from the recognition that this was the first time in nearly 80 years I had signed my name to something I hadn't chosen to sign. The facility in Savannah was clean and well run. The staff were kind people doing difficult work. I have no complaint about the place itself. But I need to tell you something true, something I believe anyone who has lived inside such an environment understands better than any medical textbook. When you no longer get to decide when to eat, when to sleep, when to turn the lamp beside your bed on or off, something in your mind begins to accept that you are no longer capable of making those decisions. And when the mind accepts that, the body follows. I watched it happen to the people around me, week after week. It wasn't their organs that failed first. It was the light in their eyes that went out first. They died from the inside, quietly, one day at a time, long before their hearts stopped beating. There was a night around month 8 when I looked in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back, not because the face had aged further, but because the eyes weren't Florence Albright's eyes anymore. They were the eyes of someone who had stopped expecting anything. I stood at that mirror in the dark, in a bathroom that wasn't mine, and I said out loud to the woman in the mirror, to the four walls, to anyone and no one, "No, not yet. I am not finished." 4 weeks after that night, Julian walked into my room. He was about 32, wore glasses, and carried a thick folder and a wooden chair. Instead of standing over me, the way most staff did, that unconscious posture that communicates everything about the power dynamic, Julian pulled the chair right up to the side of my bed, sat down until his eyes were level with mine, and said, "Mrs. Albright, your legs aren't weak because you're old. They're weak because your second heart has stopped beating." I looked at him and said nothing. But it was the first time in 8 months I had actually listened to another person. Julian took out a piece of paper and drew a simple diagram. He explained, "The heart in your chest pumps blood down to your toes. But to bring that blood back up against gravity, against the direction it wants to travel, the body doesn't rely on the heart in your chest. It relies on the muscles in your calves. Every time those muscles contract, they squeeze the veins, pushing blood back upward. That is the second heart. When you stop moving," he said, "that pump shuts off, blood pools, fluid accumulates, and you feel heavy, swollen, exhausted, not because you're old, but because the pump needs to be restarted." Then he said the sentence I have carried with me for 22 years. "Trust me, Mrs. Albright, your legs want to work. They've been waiting for you to give them permission." Exercise 5-seated ankle pumps. On the first morning, Julian showed me one movement only. No standing up, no leaving the bed, no equipment. Sit in a sturdy chair, both feet flat on the floor. Lift the heels, press the toes down. Lower the heels, lift the toes. Slow and steady like the tick of an old clock. 2 continuous minutes. I did it and thought, this can't possibly do anything. But 90 seconds in, I felt something. A warmth began to spread from my ankle up into my calf, like someone had opened a small valve that had been blocked for a very long time. Julian explained, "This movement directly activates the soleus muscle, a deep muscle running inside the calf, specifically designed to push venous blood back toward the heart. When the soleus engages, pooled blood begins to move, swelling retreats, the heaviness lifts." The Cleveland Clinic has documented that this simple pumping motion meaningfully improves venous return in the lower limbs. The mistake most people make: moving too fast. Bouncing the foot uses momentum rather than muscle. Slow it all the way down. The more conscious and deliberate the movement, the more effectively blood gets pumped. Every morning since that day, before my feet touch the floor, I do 2 minutes of this in bed. It is the first thing I do every single day. It has been for 22 years. Exercise. 4-seated knee extensions. Week 2, Julian added a second movement. Sit at the front edge of a sturdy chair. Slowly extend the right leg straight out in front of you, lifting until it's parallel to the floor. At the top, focus entirely on squeezing the muscles on the top of your thigh, your quadriceps, as tightly as you comfortably can. Hold that squeeze for 5 full seconds, then lower slowly. Switch sides, 10 repetitions for each leg. On day 14, I was eating breakfast, pushed back my chair, and stood up without grabbing the table edge. No music, no audience. I was halfway to the sink before I realized what I had just done. I stood at the sink, both hands on the rim, and cried, not from sadness, from the kind of relief that has nowhere else to go. The NIH has published long-term research identifying quadriceps strength as the single most reliable predictor of whether an older adult can maintain the ability to stand up independently, navigate stairs safely, and sustain a stable gait into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. When this muscle weakens, the entire foundation beneath you collapses. The mistake most people make, releasing the leg before fully counting 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds are not negotiable. They are precisely where the benefit lives. Exercise 3 standing calf raises. Stand facing a kitchen counter or behind a solid chair back. Rest both palms lightly on the surface lightly, not pressing your full weight onto it. It's a safety net, not a crutch. Slowly rise up on your toes, lifting your heels as high as your body allows. Hold 2 seconds at the top, then lower your heels back to the floor slowly, taking a full 2 seconds to get there. The lowering phase is where half the benefit lives. Most people let gravity drop their heels. Fight it. Take the full 2 seconds, 15 repetitions, 2 sets. During the 4th week, standing at the communal living room counter doing my 2nd set, I noticed something. My legs weren't shaking. They were working. Exercise 2 sit to stand. Julian looked at me one morning and said it plainly. Mrs. Albright, if you ever have time for only one movement in a day, make it this one, because the day you can no longer stand up from a chair without help is the day you lose your freedom. Sit at the front edge of a sturdy chair, feet slightly behind your knees. Lean slightly forward until your nose is over your toes. Press your heels into the floor. Engage the thighs and glutes. Stand up. Try not to use your hands to push. When fully upright, squeeze the glutes briefly. Then sit back down slowly. Take 3 full seconds. Don't drop. On the day I left the nursing home after 11 months, I did 5 repetitions of this exercise before I signed my discharge paperwork, alone, without assistance. When I walked out that door, I didn't look back. Exercise 1, the morning sequence. The ultimate exercise is not a single static movement. It's a closed loop I run every morning from the moment I wake until I leave the bedroom. First, 2 minutes of ankle pumps in bed, awakening the venous system. Then sit to stand to get out of bed, no hands. Move to the kitchen counter, 10 standing calf raises, driving blood pressure upward. Finally, 5 minutes of walking through the house hallway, living room, kitchen, paying full attention to each step. Heel strikes first, rolls through the arch, toes push off. This sequence rebuilds the entire circulatory loop. No single exercise can do what this chain does. This morning, before sitting down here with you, I completed this sequence as I have done every morning for 22 years. Now let me tell you what I promised at the beginning. All 5 of those exercises, every movement I just showed you, account for only 30% of the reason I'm standing at 101. The other 70% is not physical therapy. It's not supplements. It's not any particular diet. The other 70% is the answer to a question I want you to ask yourself right now. Does your life still feel like it matters? Not philosophically, practically. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, is there someone expecting something from you? Someone whose face changes when they hear your voice? When the brain believes the life it inhabits is still worth inhabiting, it releases an entirely different cascade of chemistry. Inflammation markers drop, immune function rises, pain signals are modulated downward, and sleep deepens. The entire biological orchestra shifts pitch the moment the conductor, which is your belief in the meaning of your own days, lifts the baton. This is not inspirational language, this is physiology. After I came home from the nursing home, I realized there were 4 other elderly women in my circle living in significant isolation. I created a simple ritual. Every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, I called each one of them Beatrice, Hazel, Eleanor, and Vivian. Not to exchange medical information, just to ask, did you sleep well last night? Have you done your leg exercises yet? What's one thing you're grateful for today? One Tuesday afternoon, Beatrice said to me, in a voice just above a whisper, Florence, I don't think you know this, but I count the days until Tuesday. It's the only day of the week I know for certain I'll hear a familiar voice. I set the phone down after that call and sat quietly for a long moment. Within 3 months, all 4 of us were sleeping better, reporting less joint pain, feeling more mentally clear, no new medications, no expensive therapies, only this, each of us knowing that someone was counting the days until they heard our voice again. And the final thing I'll say, tend your inner life with the same discipline you bring to these exercises. Every morning before the day begins, sit quietly for 10 minutes, pray, meditate, or simply sit in silence and be honest with yourself. The peace that comes from a consistent inner life is not a luxury for people without problems. It is the foundation. Because on the mornings when your legs ache and your motivation is depleted, the thing that gets you out of bed to do the sequence, it's not iron willpower, it's not self-coercion, it's a quiet, unshakable place deep inside that no amount of pain can reach. Tend it, water it daily. It will never betray you. My name is Florence Albright. I once lay in the dark at 2 in the morning, unable to reach a bathroom 8 steps away, too proud and too heartbroken to call out for my daughter. I signed nursing home papers with a shaking hand. And 11 months later, I walked out of that place on my own 2 feet. I'm not telling you it was easy. I'm telling you it was possible. The day I left the nursing home, I could manage 3 sit-to-stand repetitions before I was winded. 3. Today, at 101, I do 15 every morning without hurrying. Your legs do not want to give up. They never did. They have simply been waiting for you to give them permission to work again. Tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the floor, start with 2 minutes of ankle pumps in bed. Just 2 minutes. Then the next morning, 2 more minutes. And the morning after that. The change will come, not with fanfare. Just a morning when you notice, my legs feel lighter today than yesterday. Leave one word in the comments below. Heavy, swollen, or exhausted, so I know where you are in this journey. And if something in this video reached you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that walking back into their own life is still possible. Thank you for staying with me. Keep moving forward.